My name is Michael Dana. In 2008, I was diagnosed with a rare brain cancer, and after 6 years, I was cancer-free. But the ordeal left me changed, with a different outlook on life and a new sense of priorities. While still recovering, I earned a degree in economics from UNC Chapel Hill. My studies taught me to analyze data and open my mind to see things differently. I also started formal training in the martial arts to better defend myself and use it as a means of extreme physical therapy. Since then, I've obtained black belts in 3 martial arts. I own and run a martial arts school and have logged over 51 teaching hours. To my friends and family, I'm a simple business owner. But to the martial arts world, I'm something else. I am Sifu Mike, and this is Dragon Theory.
Hello people, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. We got another episode for you. This time I'm talking about all the type of isms. I'm talking about prejudice, okay? So if you really liked my last 2 videos, man, you'll freaking love this video. Okay, I'm just hitting all the things that you don't even talk about, right? And that's why there's such a problem, is that everybody's ignorant of this thing because nobody ever talks about it. So I'm going to be talking about it. And by the way, I'm Sifu Mike, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts, my theory on this whole issue, because the thing about prejudice is very, very real and very rampant in the entire martial arts industry. I've said it before in several other videos, but trying to coin the term Dojoism, right? The martial arts equivalent of, like, really all the kinds of isms out there. I mean, martial arts has racism, we have ableism, we have sexism, we have ageism, you know, we have literally all the isms in the industry. Okay, so I don't blame anybody for not wanting to take part and be in an industry that not only acknowledges the existence of this kind of prejudice, but they kind of ignore it. And in some cases, they actually promote it and they like encourage it, right? And so, man, it's just not, it's not good at all. And so, I'm going to be talking about it because it is a huge deal, right? And it is everywhere. And just like the rest of society in the world, okay, martial arts, this is microcosm of the society. The stuff that I'm going to be talking about in this video, you can also find parallels everywhere else, right? Kind of why I'm making this video. So I'm going to be talking about this thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand, because they keep, like, we've been fighting about, like, racism and stuff like that for decades, just forever, for a long time. And there's just, like, I'm going to be offering up one of my ideas of why I think it is something that just keeps going, and why people are not receptive to learning. And I'm going to offer maybe a solution that might help, but for the most part, this is just going to be informing you that this thing exists and is everywhere. You got people who judge individual martial artists simply by the color of the belt around their waist, or by the martial art that they chose to take part in, okay, or just by their gender, okay, it's just a massive thing, or their age, right, because they do it as a sport, but they also kind of think it's self-defense. So, like, it's crazy, man. Everything you can possibly think of, all the different isms are right there, and got them all done to me. I'm sure if you've done martial arts before for a long time, you've also had them done to you, right? Maybe you didn't even know it and realize it. Like, there's been a couple of times I didn't even realize it until, like, somebody told me about it, and be like, hey man, this thing keeps happening to you because of this. And I'm like, oh man, right? And so I'm gonna go back. If you haven't, like, watched my intro, you don't know anything about me. I had cancer in 2008, right? I had a very rare type of brain cancer. So there's maybe like 60 to 120 other people like me in the US. I am very rare, okay? Most people don't look past that. They just see that, I'm a white guy, so they don't kind of listen to me. But, like, I'm been there. I'm like more of a minority in that respects than most people are, right? So I've got a little bit of say-so on this stuff because I've been a victim of all these different kinds of isms and prejudice, right? So it's a thing that totally happens, not just in the martial arts industry, but everywhere, okay? People are always prejudiced against something, especially if they don't know, because that's literally how prejudice happens. It is forming an opinion about something you have no knowledge or understanding of. Very, very simple like that. And so when you have that kind of prejudice, when you apply that to like inanimate objects, like going to the grocery store or something like that, people are prejudiced all the time. It's like how you choose what you're going to get. All right, when you apply it to an inanimate object, it's okay. It's actually like the way that you learn. Okay, when you think about it, kids are prejudiced from the very get-go. They don't know anything. Of course they are. They're just going to be forming opinions based on whatever, and that's why parents are always like, try this, eat your vegetables, whatever, share, do this thing. You know, they want the kids to be exposed to as much information as they can to form better informed opinions about them and not be discriminatory or prejudiced or a bigot or anything like that, right? And so those are kids, again, you know, adults are just bigger kids, right? So if they haven't been exposed to that, they form these kind of opinions about nothing, right? I can't tell you how many times people come to me and expect that they can do a thing they've never done before. They expect that they can train themselves better than I can. And I've been doing this for a long time, man. Like over 15 years or so of just doing martial arts. I've got over 10 years of teaching martial arts. I've got over 6,100 hours spent doing or teaching martial arts. That's not even counting all the time I'm doing. It's just, I've been there. Like, I kind of know what I'm talking about. I don't need somebody who watched a video on YouTube telling me how to do a thing that I already did. Now, I made a video on YouTube about it, and they didn't watch it. Watch my videos. I got a whole massive channel, tkfmma, right? YouTube/tkfmma. Go there. There's like 250 videos about everything. Or you can go to the Dragon Neon, or not Dragon Neon, that's my podcast. Sorry, Dragon's my thing, man. So I got Dragon Theory, Dragon Neon, Dragon Method, right? Go to dragonmethod.com. I got more videos about all things martial arts. So that's just all things martial arts. A shameless plug there in the middle of this whole thing. Normally save that for the end. But we're talking about prejudice. We're talking about not having knowledge, right? And so that is a huge thing that happens all the time. And sometimes people are just in an industry repeating what has been done to them and not actually knowing that what they're doing is prejudice, okay? They're, you know, supposed to. They feel like they're supposed to judge a person simply by the color around their waist. They're supposed to judge somebody because they do a thing that they don't understand, that doesn't fit into their little box, that isn't part of their martial art, right? So they must be worse, right? They're judging the quality of the person based on what they do if it's different from what they do. I mean, it's like you put this in other contexts. You have people who are like, I'm never going to judge a person by the color of their skin, right? They'll swear they'll never do that, but they'll totally judge a person by the color of the fabric around their waist or what color gi they're wearing, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference right there. You know, if I'm not judging their skin color, but I am judging the fabric that they wear, okay? And the same things, like you have people who are like, I'm never going to judge negatively about somebody who is from a country different than mine that I've never been to, that I don't know anything about. You know, they're cool, they're from another country or whatever like that. Those same people in a different box are kind of like, I don't do this martial art, so they must be bad. They're from a different martial art, different place, different time, right? Must be bad. I don't know anything about them, but they don't fit in my space. Same people. Totally inconsistent, and it's just like doesn't quite jive, you know. It doesn't quite work because really the human body can only move in so many different ways. You're gonna have a lot of things that are exactly the same, just different names, right? Subtle differences, right? So to ignore those little differences and just kind of like, you know, swear somebody off because of that is shouldn't do it. I'm just saying. So you have this thing where people are always doing this in martial arts, even though they're on the other end saying they're not going to do this over here, right? My theory, okay, is that the chemical brains and emotions that you have for one is going to be exactly the same as the other. All right, it's the human brain and the kind of perception that you might have is how you are able to compartmentalize and put these things over here. It's how you can be one way over here and another way over here and think it's perfectly fine because your brain is like, okay, these things are different. But the rest of the body is like, oh, these are the same. We only have one emotion that we can give you, right? And the reason why I think this is that my brain tumor was on a part of my brain that alcohol affects. So if you've ever been really drunk and had a really bad hangover, I had all of those symptoms. Okay, so the exact same symptoms can be caused by two different things, right? You can either be really drunk or you could have a brain tumor. Okay, hopefully you'll be really drunk and be like, ah man, that's why my head hurts. Okay, because having the brain tumor sucks. Let me tell you, had one, not fun. All right, but you have two different causes, same symptoms. So what this is that prejudice, the lack of knowledge, all right, different causes, same symptoms, different places, same thing. So if you're prejudiced in one area, there's a good chance you're going to be prejudiced somewhere else because you're not treating the root issue where you just have a lack of knowledge about the thing that you're forming an opinion on, right? It's amazing. People do this all the time where they try to recognize this thing they've never seen before, okay? And they do that by comparison. Well, we know that people are bad at self-assessment, right? And so they have nothing to compare it to, right? They just kind of swear it off. Like it doesn't, like it's not important, right? Because it doesn't fit them. It's totally different. They're not wanting to learn. It's just crazy, right? And so you have these different things where it's like, hey, I've got this feeling that I'm making this decision on, right? And I'm going to be prejudiced. I'm going to discriminate or whatever over here. But because my brain's like, oh, we have a different context. We have to, can't talk about skin color, can't talk about age, can't do like this. But it's all totally fine if we judge people based on the martial art that they do, right? You're bad because you do this martial art and I do this martial art, that kind of deal. They think that's okay. They encourage that, actually. And it's amazing. It's like, when people wonder why you could still have the same problem for decades, this is why, right? This inconsistency, okay? That's the whole thing. It's this inconsistent behavior. People are not going to be receptive to any kind of information that you're putting out there if the source of that information is inconsistent. It doesn't line up. So the brain doesn't make any chance to actually be receptive of that information coming in because they're like, hey, what you're saying doesn't fit with what you do over here. Alright? Everybody needs consistency. Whether or not they think about it or not, they do. Because look, I've been teaching martial arts for a decade. I can tell you that kids really love structure. They love things to be consistent. They want it the same every single time. Adults need it too, but when you're an adult, you can use your brain to form that structure, okay? But kids, they can't do it at all, so they need somebody to do it for them, and they thrive on it being consistent all the time. They're more receptive if the information always lines up and always comes at the same points in time or whatever like that. It's consistent. That's what they need, right? When you look at like math and science, okay, all the logic-based stuff, that's consistent. Everything lines up. Everything follows. Everything tracks, okay? 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's always going to be the same. It's consistent. But when you have a person who is making an argument about one thing, but totally is not doing that over here, it's not really consistent. So people are not going to be really receptive to your argument if, like, hey, you're saying this thing over here, but over in this push, you're totally like doing the exact opposite. Alright? And you don't even realize it. And people are just kind of like not being receptive to that and trying to just win arguments on the whole thing. That's all they're doing. They're not trying to learn. They're just trying to win an argument because they don't understand the source of the information. Right? And they don't realize that prejudice is just literally a lack of information and making an opinion based on nothing. Right? And so that's the thing. That's my whole deal about this whole thing, is that you need to just have way more information about this. Like me being a mixed martial art, I freaking love the fact that I have like 10 different martial arts in my style, and I get as much information as I can. Always learning. Martial arts is a lifestyle, right? Always learning, always learning. And because of that, I'm very open to just all kinds of input and have people who come in who are receptive to that. So I have one of the most diverse schools that I've ever seen, man. Sometimes, many times, I'm like the only Caucasian on the mat. It's really cool. All these different people, all these different viewpoints and perspectives and religions and everything and skin colors. Great. I get to learn as much as I can, right? Everybody should be doing that. Okay, it's not even a thing that should be, well, I mean, it's a thing that totally should be taught in schools, right? You should know everything about everybody and everything, right? But like, it isn't. So I end up learning vicariously through the matter, like after class, before class, just asking people questions about all kinds of things, getting to know them. That's how you really defeat this whole prejudice and lack of information, and getting their different perspectives on how they view the world. Okay, because everybody sees things differently. Everything could always be better, could always be worse. It's all depending on how you look at it, right? That's what's the big deciding factor between you being happy, is how you choose to look at things. But when you have inconsistency in your arguments and who you are as a person, people are probably not going to be open to you, and probably not going to be listening to those arguments and not choosing to hear you out and hear what you're saying, because you're being like hypocritical almost. It's like, hey, I'm going to be here, and you're just going to accept that for reasons. Doesn't fly. Never has fly. I mean, we're talking about this thing. This issue has been going on for decades, right? And so the two things that I think would help, I'm going to offer up, like I said, my suggestions about this whole thing is that everybody seems to think that, well, I'm actually going to offer up three. Okay, so the first one is that everybody says everyone should be treated equally, right? Well, yeah, you can treat everyone equally, you can treat them all equally bad, so you don't want necessarily that. I think the wording should be changed, okay, because words are kind of important when you think that so many people put so much emphasis on what a word is and what it means, right? And have, like I said, have all these isms or everything, to the point where, like, hey, I coined Dojoism so I can like put a label on this thing that happens, so I can pinpoint it and I can call it out, and I'm like, hey, this is bad, this is why, you need to stop it, you need to know what's going on, so we can make this world a better place for everyone involved. Okay? Trying to eliminate the ignorance, basically. So, changing the word from, all people are created equal. Well, actually, we really should be changing that one, because you guys cannot decide on whether or not you evolved or you were created. Okay? Leave it, let it rest, man. Let's just change that away and change it to all people should be valued equally, because that is the big thing right there. Because not everybody is valued. If you forgot which episode I talked about it might have been the last one actually, where basically you can put a dollar sign on somebody's head, and really as a business owner, when a student comes in, yeah, I think of them as a student, but also I think of them as a dollar sign. I have to, right? You kind of have to. Gotta have to pay the bills and put food on the table, all that kind of stuff. And so people have dollar signs, and different people have different dollar signs, right? That's what we need to change. We need to change that perspective. We need to think of everybody being worth the same thing, because a lot of people aren't. Alright, they're not just not seen that way. You can always put more value on somebody than somebody else, right? Everybody does that. Okay, like the test that I love to have people do is if you were offered $1 million and all you had to do was choose one person in your immediate family to die, right? And only you and the other person giving you $1 million would know that you actually made the choice. They would just be peaceful, even if be resolved of all that kind of guilt and stuff like that. You just got $1 million, right? If you could say yes to that, that's what I'm talking about. If you're like, no, man, I love my family. Well, how about your immediate family? Uncles and nephews and nieces, right, and cousins, and maybe like in-laws and step siblings, step parents, those kind of things. And then you kind of can expand it out to maybe like co-workers or people in your town, people in your state, people in the country, people in other country, people you've never even met. All right, do they have the same value as a person who is living with you as your loved one, as your friend? Who do you value most, right? Maybe it's just you. You don't value anybody, right? So that is what we need to fix as far as, getting rid of prejudice, is seeing everybody on an even plane, right? Everybody is worth the same amount, because right now, man, you can look around, there's not a whole lot of people who are considering other people to be worth as much as them or the other person. Like, there is this complete inequality with how we value each other, right? And businesses see that all the time. That's the one thing business will look at an individual and be like, okay, they're worth more than this guy, so we're going to go with this because he's worth more, right? He's worth more to us. We can get more out of him, more money. That's what everything is based on, right? So we need to change that if we ever hope to change any of these isms, right? We need to start valuing people, for people's sake, for the morality of, like, they are another human being, just like me. I'm a human, right? That kind of deal. Start seeing the similarities instead of the differences, even though that is exceptionally easy because it is literally instinctual to be able to pick out something that is different, that is opposite from what you actually know, because like that's a self-defense mechanism. Be like, hey, I don't know what this thing is. I fear what I don't understand, right? That is literally a instinctual thing that is like built in. But we as humans have the ability to choose other than what we feel. We can choose to learn about this thing that we don't understand, and we need to do that. So that kind of brings me up to my third point, right, is that we need to introduce more information to people, okay? Like all information, everything. And I think I said it before, I can't remember which video it was, but we need to put in as much information as we can into little kids, into education, right? Have them grow up and be a sponge. Teach them everything we can find and why people think certain things. Let them figure out a way to make the world a better place, because really all these different isms and prejudices, that's a result of just not knowing anything, okay? Alright, so give them everything. Now, probably the hardest part you're going to run into is that in most schools, the curriculum, I gotta say it right, curriculum is often decided by the society. So if the society is already in some way, shape, or form prejudiced towards one thing or another, often they will have a curriculum that reflects that prejudice. So we got to get past that. So if you don't agree with this thing, fine. Still, give it to the kids. Let them figure it out. Don't let them figure it out. Just give it to them and tell them, like, hey, these people believe this because this. I believe this because of this. Everybody has everything that's different. Let them get as much as they can. In a generation, they'll be able to figure out how to make this world a better place. Because honestly, if you're over 15, there's a good chance your mind's already made up. You're not going to do anything. Let's be perfectly honest, man. You go back to my video where I was talking about how the human brain operates and works, man. After you get past a certain point, it's just not happening unless you have the incentive to do that. But if your incentive is money-based, value-based, and you're valuing people differently, man, it's just like this vicious cycle almost of something that's never going to work. That's probably why for decades we've been dealing with the same issues. Okay, so giving kids as much information as we can might result in solving all of our problems that we've never been able to solve. Right? And, you know, stop trying to resolve those problems when the best thing you can do is literally just give the next generation as much information as you can. Let them, you know, teach the calculator so that they can crunch the numbers later on and find out the big problems and big solutions and everything like that. Have them figure it out. Have them make the world a better place, because we're doing a crappy job. Let's face it. That's why, you know, I'm choosing to look on the bright side of everything, because, hey, 60 years we've not made much progress at all, right? It's crazy to think that in that amount of time we went from not flying to putting people in space, putting a man on the moon, right? But since then we haven't really done anything. Alright, so, you know, that's one thing that, I will say this. The value lies in the inconsistency. And so a lot of people can't get past this inconsistency that they are seeing from people who are saying, hey, you gotta believe this, you gotta do this, you gotta be this way, right? Part of what that comes from, this is going to be offering up another suggestion as to why people think the way they think, right? Is that, and it's an issue of pride, okay? Which is going to be where it says, so hang with me, all right? It's an issue of pride. Now, pride, in its best form, you know, it's a perfectly good thing to take pride in something you did. But that's the thing, it's got to be something you did. It's got to be something you worked for, right? But if you didn't work for it, then you shouldn't be very proud of this thing that just is, right? That just happened, right? And so I can't, like, for me, I can't say that I'm proud to be American because I was born here, right? I didn't do anything for that. It just happened. So I can't really be prideful of that. Now, I've got a friend of mine who immigrated legally, right? It took him 6 years to be a citizen of this country. He can say legitimately he's proud to be an American because he worked for like 6 years to get to that point, right? He took all the tests and learned all the stuff and did everything you're supposed to do as far as getting a citizenship. Gotta use my words, man. Been talking for a while. Gonna be wrapping this up soon, I swear. Right? But yeah, so he can legitimately say that he's prideful about this thing that he worked towards, right? I'm proud to graduate from the college that I graduated from because I worked my butt off for that, right? I'm proud to be alive because, like, I worked my butt off for that, right? I've worked my butt off for a lot of things that, like, other people would think are very simple, but that's another video, right? I can be proudful of the things that I work for that I aren't. Like, I'm proudful of the martial art ranks that I have because I work for them, right? But saying that you're proudful of this thing that just kind of happened doesn't really line up because, you know, you're over here saying, hey, you should treat this thing as a normal thing, but I'm going to be proudful that this thing just happened. So it doesn't quite line up. It's inconsistent, right? I'm totally on board with, you know, people of different races, of different sexualities, of everything. Just, you know, that's the thing, you know? It's fine. They're still people, right? They can choose whatever they want. If it's a natural thing, if they didn't have any control over it, awesome. Stop treating it, though, as if it is something that is different when you want people to think that is supposed to be normal. That doesn't line up. That's what's probably causing the confusion and inconsistency with the argument is that, hey, I'm going to be prideful of this thing that I didn't do anything to actually earn, right? And that simple, easy thing is saying pride comes before the fall. You know, a lot of people are thinking that. They have that engraved in their brain. They're like, why are you prideful of this thing that you're at the same time saying should be normal, right? Just treat it as it is. You know, that's going to be one of the hardest things to actually do, because even Gandhi, way back in the day, said, be the change you want to see in the world. So if you want this thing just be a thing that it is, then you got to treat it like such. You know, but if you treat it as something distinct and special when it should be something normal, then it doesn't line up. So that's kind of where you have this prejudice occur, is that people who don't know anything about it are not apt to learn more about it, because they're like, hey, why are you treating this thing that you say is supposed to be normal and having it be special, and treating it as if it's different, right? Doesn't line up. Same thing with, like, I see this in film where people who want more diversity in their cast. That's awesome, right? Having different types of people play different characters and everything, and having everybody represented equally on film is great. And then you see movies of entirely one race or one gender or whatever like that, and it's kind of like, that's not diversity in films, that's diversity of films. There's a difference. And the thing is, there's already diversity of films, just not the best films that you want to see, right? And so, again, inconsistency, that confusion, causes people to not be receptive of any kind of argument that would be a good thing. Alright, so we have to get all this information out there, and we have to get past all these things that we think are super special. They're normal, and you should treat it as such. Everybody should treat it as such. Alright, again, also goes back to value. You're placing value on a thing that has no value. Telling other people that they should not value it, but they should value you for a different reason, it's just, it doesn't line up. It's so confusing, right? Like, I can't say it enough. I feel like a broken record, man. We just need to educate people on this thing, because they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's cool, I learned about that in like whatever grade, right? I learned about that when I was 5, you know, that kind of deal. It's just so they understand everything that's going on, they understand the world, okay? Now, whether or not that's actually going to happen, because like I said, society determines curriculum, okay, and the businesses that kind of run this whole country are deciding what gets taught, okay? Look, I've said it before, you can't accurately defend against something if you don't know what that something is. So the easiest way to stay on top of your opponent is to keep them ignorant of the game that they're playing, right? You can win any game if you play by your own rules. So if you keep them ignorant that they're not even playing the same game as you, you've already won, right? Very simple. And so if a business is trying to get your money because they value you differently than other things, right, then they're going to keep you ignorant of that, so they can keep doing that. They can keep tricking you with the same thing, right? And then we end up arguing over the same points that we have been for like 60, 70 years or whatever like that, and not making any progress, while other people who value things differently are getting lots of money. So you gotta take it into that perspective, and that people are people, and that everybody should know everybody, love everybody, and treat everybody kind, and value them the same. But we don't. Okay, so that's the whole reason, and you totally see that in the martial arts industry. Lots of people just not at all valuing each other, and think that they're lesser human beings because they do a martial art that is entirely different from the martial art that they do, and they don't understand it. It's the most amazing thing to watch this level of ignorance just get perpetrated, and like I said, encouraged, often encouraged. And so it's really not cool, man. People are people, right? You should like love and respect people, because you are a people, okay? Everybody's people. Alright, that's the one thing we got in common. Everyone's like, we're in this together. Yes, everybody's on this dust ball together. Right? We should start acting like it and stop trying to just win arguments for the sake of winning arguments. We should try to understand each other. Right? Try to help each other live better lives, man. If everybody tried to make life better for the person next to them, right next to them, then this world would be amazing. right? We don't do that because we value everybody differently. Alright, so we need to fix that. It's my little soapbox about Pride and Prejudice, okay? And not the actual book that was made into a movie kind of deal. So, talking about this video and stuff. Anyways, watch all my videos. This is like the, I don't know, 33 episode? I've been doing a lot of these, man, so I've got a ton of episodes. YouTube/tkfmma. Alright, definitely check me out. Subscribe. I got all kinds of stuff there. I've got a couple of self-defense videos. I got more stuff coming out. Everything, all the time. Always making videos because I like the sound of my own voice. Right? And so there's a button somewhere where you can like subscribe and click a bell and get notified. Do all of that jazz, man. And you can also look me up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all tkfmma. Alright, and I've got a website that I mentioned earlier, thedragonmethod.com, okay? Thedragonmethod.com, where you can go and learn all kinds of stuff about any kind of martial arts, whether it's just punching, kicking, or teaching. I've got a lot of stuff on how to teach and how to effectively communicate to another human being, right? That's a big thing, right? And I've got just videos on everything. So if you like this video tutorial, I've got a bunch more on that website. And I'm currently running a special right now where you can get a free trial. Okay, free! You can get a membership for a very long time. I'm not going to actually say how long it is, but definitely check that out because I got all kinds of stuff to it. I'm adding to it as much as I can, whenever I can. It's only just me, and I've got a whole bunch of classes that I teach each week, and I'm making these videos, and I'm editing them, and whether I'm doing it all, man, just, it's cool. I enjoy doing that, but it's a lot, okay? And it gives me a new understanding and appreciation for the people that do this kind of stuff, right? People who are editing, people who are acting, people who are doing the sound and everything, the camera work and the lighting, right? People who are teaching classes, people like, I got an appreciation for all of them. Like I said, man, love knowledge is a lifestyle, right? Make it a good one. It's all up to you, your choice on how you look at it. So, anyways, guys, I'm Sifu Mike. I hope you learned something. I know I've been on a soapbox here, just kind of rambling on, but I'm trying to help you guys out, trying to help us all out, right? We gotta help each other make it through this big thing called life, alright? And so, be good to each other, love each other, check me out, got more videos to come, and yeah, guys, take it easy.